Hello everyone and welcome into our latest live video, which there I am. Today is the 6th of May. It is Tuesday and it is 2025. And I wasn't sure if we were making a video today because I'm waiting on some things to arrive that I had ordered specifically to make content, and wasn't quite sure. When they tell me it's going to arrive Tuesday, does that mean Tuesday morning, Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday evening, and sometimes even delayed? But it arrived today, and it being the Nano KVM. Now lately I have had a very strong interest in these remote desktop management tools that allow me to simply plug a little device in like this, just into an HDMI output of a computer, and the keyboard and mouse of a computer. By the way, anything that has an HDMI output, doesn't even have to be a computer. I can then also plug in the network cable, put it on the network, this little box, and I can access it via a browser. So no software is installed on either side. The software is installed in the little box. These are called remote or IP KVMs, keyboard, video, mouse. And then we also have another one here from GLInet that has a different take. You'll notice there's no screen on this one, and it works similar but different in much the same way that one manufacturer of car may be similar to another manufacturer of car, but they do things a little different and they might interpret things a little different. And much the same way, there is an open source community project called Nano KVM, which is a sort of a offshoot of the Pi KVM, using the Raspberry Pi motherboards as project boards. And those Pi KVMs were still quite expensive. KVMs in industrial use in corporations are in the thousands of dollars, and not something typically a home user would be able to afford or have any room for, or would need access to 15 different computers. These control one computer, and they're all about $60, $70 right now. The Jet KVM was a Kickstarter project. The GLInet is an early pre-order, which we received. So they both have some polishing. They're not quite ready yet, but they're getting better with each firmware version. They get a little better. And then the Nano KVM, which is really just community supported, and you're on your own for waiting for the community to update it. It may not have the attention or support, certainly no support, for the Nano KVM, other than asking for help in a Reddit thread or a GitHub thread. And sometimes those people can be a little snooty, if I'm quite frank with you, and it's the exact antithesis of everything I stand for, which is to be the nerdiest nerd, but not behave like one. There's a stereotype, but it's a very negative stereotype, that I am intellectually superior to you because I know how to use the VI command in Linux. And it's just the most abhorrent, disgusting, childish, immature behavior exhibited by people who, that's all they have. Like, that's their only accomplishment in life, I guess. So they really hold on to that. And they act as though they were born with it, and they wear a cape, and that nobody ever taught them, and they've long since forgotten how they learned it or who took the time to teach them. And quite often the attitude you get is, they'll speak Greek to you and they'll say, well, you just do this, this, and this. And you say, well, how do you do that? And they go, well, if you don't at least know how to do that, you shouldn't be here asking for help. Okay, that is profoundly absurd and ignorant. Unfortunately, in the community of open source, and especially where it involves certain people of a certain attitude, this is all too common. It doesn't affect everybody in the community, but it only takes one or two, quite frankly, to sour me on the whole forum. Makes me want to leave. Like, if you're not like me, then I don't want to talk to you. It's a form of racism. The downside, or really the sad part about it, is racism is something you're born, if you're born a certain race. This is something they've learned. That's the sad part. They've learned this behavior. They were likely treated that way from somebody else, and now they're treating others. It's like bullying. A lot of people who've never been bullied don't become bullies. It's It's a learned behavior generally, and it is just taught to the next generation. And so it will probably continue for the rest of our lives and onwards for generations until people rise above and decide they don't want to behave in a very stereotypical, what's the right word for it? It's just not a lot of thought. They're just seeing somebody else do something and they're doing the same thing, only now they're the boss, right? Before, somebody else was the boss and made them feel stupid, and now they consider themselves the boss when somebody asks them a question that they consider to be basic and then insult you for not knowing it, which if you knew it, why would you be there? Or they might say, well, we won't give you that information because you might hurt yourself. You might damage the device. It is profoundly absurd and offensive. So if there's any downside to any of these, it's that if you have to go to any of these communities, you're going to find that there, at least if you speak up, okay? You ask somebody to explain something to you in plain English, the way we do things here, their attitude is, if you need it explained in plain English, you don't belong here. Now, all I'm hearing is racism. That is a prejudice. And my response is always, who taught you? Did you just come out of the womb knowing this? And then a fight ensues. And then you'll see message after message after message of basically insults of people claiming and digging their heels down about justifying why they're not going to tell you. Well, the other person says, how am I ever going to learn if you don't tell me? Who taught you? And then around and around. They just simply won't apologize. It's very rare to see that. And then actually answer your question. So when you're buying from a corporation and you're talking or emailing to support, there is a professionalism that is followed, because those people working are getting paid and representing the company. And if they represent the company in a negative way, they're probably not going to work there anymore. But when we get to the hobbyists and enthusiasts, they can say and do whatever they want, and they can kick you out of their little club because you're not like them. You're not good enough. And that's an unfortunate side of the open source community. Now, again, it's not the entire open source community, but even those in the community who tend to be the most vocal, in my experience, with like, here's how you fix this, and here's how I've altered the code, and I've done this, right? They overall, in general, and again, there's always exceptions, don't want to be bothered explaining what they did to you. In other words, this is the code I've altered to do it this way, and if you have any questions about how you did it, well, that's for you to learn. Or if you have any questions about, if you question their work, their attitude is they're not going to explain it. That's very, very common. I'm not here to explain it to you. If you need it explained to you, you don't belong here. All right, so you're going to find that pretty much, except for the GLINet. The GLINet is supported by the company. Jet KVM has a GitHub page where you can go for help. But apparently you need to have a certain level of knowledge before they'll help you. And the Nano KVM, we're going to unbox this for the first time. I've opened the box to look inside, but I've never hooked one of these up before. And the idea is that we can plug one of these, they all kind of do the same thing, into the back of any computer or anything with an HDMI port. And we can control it from within the network or from anywhere in the world. Now, if it's something not controllable, let's just say, for example, I've got a video output in HDMI. Could be a camera, could be a little video game. I can output that right the same way. I just can't control it, but I could output that unless it has some kind of USB controls that we could write code for. The USB on this is strictly to emulate keyboard and mouse. So I've got the Minisporum AI X1 here, X1 Pro, and I only have two cables plugged into it right now, power and internet. That's it. I'm not plugging in a keyboard or a mouse, and I'm not plugging in HDMI. These replace your monitor. These are not meant to then feed your monitor out. This is for remote access only, not for local. If you're local, you can swap the cables, right? That's the, there are better ways for you if you still want to be able to use your monitor at the same time as be able to access this remotely, then you want remote software, something like Instant House Call or Rust Desk or Ultra Viewer, or I mean, I can go on and on and on. They'll enable you to, you just have to put the remote software on both sides. With this, I don't have to put any software on it. So why is that important? I set up customer computers. I sell computers. I don't want remote access on a computer that I'm selling to a stranger that I'm never going to hear from again. I don't want anything left behind on a brand new build. And if a customer of mine is a regular customer, I will specifically add remote access software to it. So what I can do is when I have a brand new machine and we do all the lengthy Windows updates and configurations, I can plug one of these into the computer and I can go upstairs into another room and I can be doing all the administrative tasks and watching YouTube and other things I do after hours or off camera without having to go up and down the stairs and keep walking around here looking at this monitor trying to figure out, did the Windows updates finish yet? In fact, even while I'm upstairs, I can enter the BIOS. I can make BIOS changes. Anything this outputs to a screen feeds out through these boxes, and then I can view through a browser with no software on either side. That gives me a lot of power. This is not a remote tool in the sense that you would put this in the hands of a customer. This is a remote tool that would go on what we call headless units. Those are typically servers, computers that are in a locked room somewhere that you can't easily get access to, and computers you need to maintain 90% of the time or more from a different location. It's very much a business tool. For home lab and enthusiast users, you could have a computer on the other side of the house that you don't want to have to walk over to. Maybe you don't even want to hook up a monitor and a keyboard and a mouse to it. It takes up too much room. So you could just stick this little box somewhere inconvenient and turn it on and have full control of it just by plugging one of these boxes in. But you do need to run a separate internet connection. So you have an internet connection to the computer you want to control. Not that that's necessary as long as you don't want to access the internet on this computer. But I want to do Windows updates and I want to download things. So to do that, it's all going to go through the machine. And what this little box does is it enables keyboard, mouse, and video through the browser. So no software needs to be installed. Now on this one, if I want to access it remotely from outside of the building, then I need to use their app, which I think is a really bad decision. And the reason for that is if the app isn't available for your operating system, like on your phone or etc., then you're not going to get outside access on that device. You need a separate app for each operating system: iOS, Android, Mac, Linux, Windows. When the software is entirely built into the unit, then the way you access the app is through a website. And you create an account there that's secured and locked out, and you just access the website. So if you have anything that can access a website and display it, a tablet, a phone, then you can access the computer this is connected to. It's pretty darn cool. So the original, sort of before this and before this, we had the Nano KVM. And I was very much on the fence about the Nano KVM because the open source nature of it, I just felt like it's going to be a little wonky, a little janky. But now that I've seen how well these work and how far it's come, I want to take a very first look now at the Nano KVM and see how it's developed over time. Let me say hello to everybody joining us in the chat. Before we get started here, let me go back to, let's see, click on that button. Here we go. Welcome in, Marsman50 saying hello, Doman 2000 and Mark Gaines joining us. I see Lou Greenia and 3D Everything. Martin Hogg saying hello. There is also Dustin Fuller and Gil Garcia. Heike Delphin says hello. John Williams says hello. There's Al Perez and Ben Laird, Andy Winbridge and Patrick T all saying hello. Eddie Casanova, Lana Dro. Of course, Mara, our channel administrator, hanging out with us. Frank Skalker saying hello from the Netherlands. Arnold says hello. Madman Dark Jedi joining us. Oh, we got a good crowd in here today. David Collins says, I have a Jet KVM and a Nano KVM, and my Nano KVM was dead on arrival. I saw GLI Net was releasing one, interested to see it work. So we've already done this. We have a video on it. You can go back a couple days, a week, and we go through this unit. These are here just for demonstration, size demonstration as we compare each unit. Think of it as Ford, Chevy, and Nissan. They all do the same job. They all take a little bit of a different, you know, from the outside to an untrained eye, they all look like cars with four wheels. But when you get inside, they're laid out a bit differently. Controls are different, you know, things like that. Scroll down a little bit more here, see who else is joining us. Corey Man0 says hello. He says, oh, I need this. I have several mini PCs running as servers without any monitor or keyboards. Yeah, they even make a server, a rack mount for the Jet KVM. And you'll find them on Etsy and even on Amazon where they 3D print or even do steel cutting, where these will slide in and then they have a custom piece that locks it in so that you could have 6 or 8 of these across your rack. One unit controls one PC. So if you have multiple mini PCs, you'd buy one of these for each one. And it looks really cool in the rack, but that's all community supported. That's not from Jet KVM. Not yet anyway. Jose Lopez says hello. There's Andy Kane joining us. The Mac Geek says hello. Jack Kugelmis says hello. John Lewis saying hello. Michael Lavelle, M2, Rip City Raider, and Scott all say hello. Welcome in, everybody, and I hope you're having a good Tuesday. We have one last day of cool weather here in Phoenix. After this, well, by Friday, it'll be well over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Today, in the 70s. Overcast and in the 70s. It's beautiful. Why can't it just stay like this? We're already overcrowded. It's not like there's any more people we could fit. Oh, they're going to fit more regardless. Yeah, summer's become unbearable here for me. So this is it. This is our last cool day for months. So don't mind me as I cherish one final embrace of the nice weather. Now, taking a look, Ernest says there were security issues reported about the Nano KVM. Well, I'm not too worried about any security issues. For one thing, we're living in an extremely paranoid culture. The world has become so paranoid. I've never seen anything like it in my life. Everybody thinks everyone else is out to get them. So, while some of the security concerns are legitimate, many of them are completely theoretical and unjustifiable and unprovable. So when somebody wants to prove and demonstrate the security exploit, which to the best of my knowledge, nobody has done with any of these, it's all theory and paranoia. That's my particular perspective on this. I'm not so easily manipulated and gullible as what I'm witnessing. All of these Chicken Littles running around because acorns hit them on the head and they're screaming the sky is falling. I was taught in my life not to do that, and yet I'm seeing it everywhere. People are just too easy to trick and fool. And if I were you, my advice is be skeptical and ask for evidence. Now, I'm also not going to tell you anything is safe, because quite frankly, if you want safety, 100% safety, get off the internet. Take everything off the internet. There is an inherent danger that comes with freedom, that comes with this ability to have the freedom of the internet at your fingertips. And if you don't want that freedom because you'd rather be safe, then give up that, just sacrifice it. Have one or have the other. You cannot have both. That's the way it's always been. I think Benjamin Franklin said you can have security or you can have freedom. Something along those lines. A very famous line from many years ago that still applies today. People looking for absolutes don't exist in this life, maybe in the next one. And by now, we should all be old enough to know that. There are no absolutes other than death and taxes, which of course These are the same old things they were talking about long before I was alive, and they continue to be true today. So to expect anything any different, just know there's a lot of people who really enjoy being Chicken Little and warning everybody that the sky is falling, and it's up to you to look for evidence before you accept that as a truth. Now, the other reason that this doesn't bother me for security reasons is even if it's true, I have no intention on accessing this outside of my network. Therefore, because it's behind my router and I'm only going to set it up for access locally, there's no way anybody can get into this. They'd have to somehow get into one of my computers, which would be impossible. And then from that computer, that once you're on my network, then you could get into that. It is no way possible, unless I set this up for outside access, that it's not even a viable thing. I'd have to be clicking on email links and setting up backdoors and just behaving very foolishly with my decisions behind my keyboard and my mouse to enable somebody to come in and do that. So just out of the box, any of these, if you just plug them in and you access them on your local network, which means anywhere in the building, you're fine. In fact, if you wanted to access it outside of the building, you could just set up a free app like Tailscale, which is all encrypted, and just throw Tailscale on the unit and on the PC you're connecting from, and have your own way in, alternatively to the app that this requires, or the setup website that requires. You could just independently set that up yourself. This is why education is so important to conquer fear. This is why so many people go around screaming the sky is falling. People are getting dumber, or at least the dumber ones are getting louder. So be aware of that. When somebody is warning you of something, look for evidence. Don't believe it. Look for evidence. If they can't provide you evidence, then they're BSing you. That's the default that I live by. You take that as you want to. So these security concerns that people have made up, as far as I can tell, never been proven. And even if they were proven, wouldn't affect us unless we open this up for external access. By default, that's not even a possible thing to do. You have to do some setup for that. But by default, when you plug it in, you'll be able to access it right on your own local network. Very super easy. So, okay, so let's not all get freaked out over imaginations and conjecture, because there's plenty of that, and it doesn't help that our professional news media does that too. So the best we can do is just, we have to be our own filters, and we've got to be able to determine what's a real threat from a fake threat. I've seen a police officer approach a stray dog as though that dog were going to attack him. And I was there, and I saw this police officer, and the way he was like shining this light in the dog's face. I'm like, dude, this is not if you're trying to catch this dog, that's not the way to do it. You're freaking that dog out. You're going to get what you give. So if you're just paranoid at the world, you're going to get that right back. It's a mirror image. Whatever you put out anger, you're going to get anger back. So I said to the police officer, what are you doing? And he goes, oh, this is a stray dog. You got to be careful. And I looked at him like he was crazy. I said, watch this. And I got down on my knees and I opened my arms, and the dog came running right into my arms. Then I picked him up and I said, do you want him in the squad car? And he goes, yeah, if you put him in the back seat for me. And I put him in the back seat and closed the door. I go, this is all this was. He looked at me like I was nuts, and I looked at him like he was crazy. You're welcome. Have a nice night. That fear is false expectations appearing real. And until you have any sort of evidence or proof that there is actually something to fear, it's only in your head. And the only way you can conquer that is through experience and education. So if you like living in fear, keep yourself in the dark. If you don't want to live in fear, turn on the lights. Okay, so enough of that. Let's see what else we've got going on here. John Lewis says it's 77 degrees today with a slight breeze. And you are where? You're in Brazil, right, John? Mark Leibowitz says, hey, I'm catching another live stream and it's another KVM. It is the last of the KVMs. There's just 3. And as soon as they arrive, I'm making the videos. This literally just arrived about an hour before we started the show, maybe 90 minutes before we started the show. That's why nothing was scheduled until it arrived. M2 is asking an unrelated question there, which I will let someone else in the chat answer. If you have questions regarding, again, any counterpoint to the security points I'm making, or with regards to the remote access and what it's for or how you use it, please do put those questions in the chat room, as I will try to stay on topic today with the Nano KVM. So just take a look at the Amazon website for this Nano KVM. Let me jump over there and come over to my window capture, which is right there. Okay, so this is what I've ordered, this exact thing. The Sipeed NanoKVM, it's $70, and it includes a couple of USB. It includes what looks like an ATX board to control turning the computer on and off. That's inside of the little plastic housing. And then that cable connects to your motherboard power switch. If you want to be able to control power, you will disconnect the power switch on the... Again, this is to replace the power switch. This is to replace the monitor. You can't have both. Well, there's a way, but you're using the wrong tool if that's what you're trying to do. There's easier, less expensive ways to do that. But for this, it's an option. If you want to be able to turn the computer on and off, it can flip the switch for you, okay? I don't use that. I have no interest in it, but I guess it came included in this package. It is an optional extra on the Jet KVM and an optional extra on the GLI Net, which cost extra, and I don't have any use for that. I'm not trying to control just one computer. I'm trying to control any computer that's on this desk at any time. Laptop, desktop, mini PC, doesn't matter. And I don't want to install any software on it. Those are my specific needs. So keep that in mind and what your needs are. This may not be the right thing for you. They do sell a version of this that's just the board itself. But then with the board itself, you have to provide your own housing, memory card, software, and cables. So it's much cheaper, unless you're a hobbyist and you enjoy that sort of thing, to just get it already built, and they have it in black and they have it in white for the same color. There's the white version and the black version. All right. And then the Jet KVM, that's over at jetkvm.com. That's all made of metal. You wouldn't want to drop it on a toe. That would hurt. It's very well built. It's got a beautiful screen. So far, this is my favorite one. And then the Comet is on pre-order right now. It's got no screen on it, so you have to access it a bit differently, and you need their own app to access it from outside of your own network. There's the ATX board if you want to control the power. That's sold separately. That adds a price, adds more to the price. Or you could just buy the ATX board. Again, I would not use that. That's for one computer you want to control indefinitely, and you want to be able to access it primarily 100% remotely. So you would never need a monitor. This replaces your monitor, and you would never need to go in and turn it off and on. You could do that right through here. Okay, so we've already looked at the GLI Net, and we've already looked at the Jet KVM, and today we're looking at the Sipeed Nano KVM. It's a RISC-V Linux development board, and even has a little NPU in it, which is kind of crazy. All right, that's all I wanted to introduce you to. All these links are in the video notes if you want to check them out or read more about their product descriptions. They're in the video notes below this video. All right. I'll take a quick look here in the chat, and we'll get to our unboxing. Doman says, does it have a built-in microphone? I don't believe so. I don't think so, but we'll have to take a look. I'm not aware of, I don't know why it would have a built-in microphone. That doesn't make sense to me, but you never know. We'll have to look. Frank Jimmy said if you dropped it on your toe, you'd need a tow truck. Yeah, that's probably true. Called an ambulance. It's a tow truck for people. Let's see. All right, so let's unbox this. Let's see what we got. I'm going to jump over to, I'm going to try something new. If I do this and do that, hey, it worked. Here's the box. And here's how it arrives. So what do we have? We've got the Nano KVM device itself, which is already set up. The memory card's in it, the OS is in it. The heatsink right down here, which you may have noticed was in the package when you buy just the circuit board. It comes with the heatsink. You have to attach it yourself. It's already in there. We've got some protective plastic here on the front just for shipping. Diagram on the side. I think it got a little more weight to it than I thought it would. We have a user guide. We have, this is again the piece that you would use to control power. I won't use this. I have no need for it. And then we have some cables. So the cables we have are a USB Type C to Type A. We have basically a SIM card removal tool or a small reset, which is good if you need to reset the device for any reason. We have a USB Type C to Type A again, so we have two of those. And then we also have, oh, okay, so this would be for plugging onto the this circuit board here. And you could use this for like activating custom switches and things if you wanted to. Yeah. So it looks like this side would potentially plug into either the header on the board, or is that USB? Probably the header on the board for the internals, the switch and LEDs and stuff. But this is all designed to be sort of mod friendly, so you can custom code it. That's the other thing about any security issues with this. It's all open source, so you can see all the code and you can change it. So if you're that level of intelligence that you understand what you think is a security thing, you can just go in and change it yourself. So just another thing to consider. And that's it. That's all we have. Also, on the Jet KVM, you can get in there and you can edit the code that drives it. It's all open and available, so there's really nothing proprietary in there. In fact, I had an issue with the Jet KVM when I first got it, where the batch, this last batch they sent to the US before the tariffs, they mistakenly used the wrong network interface chip for the network, and it has no MAC address. It has no serial number. So it kept generating a different MAC address, or think of it as a serial number, every single time it powered off and powered on. And the router didn't recognize it. Every time the MAC address would change, the router would say, oh, nice to meet you, have an IP address. So the IP address kept changing and changing and changing. And eventually, you will run out of IP addresses. So I went in there and custom coded a MAC address so it would be static and wouldn't change. Not rocket science. And then Jet KVM came out with an update, and I downloaded the latest update, and it undid my fix, it put their fix on, and now it's working like it's supposed to. That's not how it's supposed to. It's nothing that should be in the code. It should be on the chip. But I think they were in a rush to get these out, and somebody overlooked something. I wasn't even aware you could get a network chip without, it's like getting a gun without a serial number on it. It's suspicious as heck. But, you know, what are you going to do? It's all fixable because it's all open source. If you don't have the knowledge on how to do that, well, we go back to fear again, I guess. But regardless of that, that's all there is in the box here. And I will not use this, and I will not use this, as I previously explained. I'm not interested in that. I should not need the reset tool, so I'll keep all that together, and we'll just move it over here, I guess. Let's see. Let's try this. I don't want this to take up too much room on my desk. So what I want to do, and what I want to demonstrate, is I've got the Minis Forum AI X1 Pro turned on. I think it's turned on. I only have the network and power plugged into it. No keyboard, no mouse, no video. This is going to be my keyboard, mouse, and video instead. And then I'm going to see if we can access, through our browser, full control of this machine, including the BIOS, no differently than if we were using it with a keyboard and mouse and monitor right here. I'm going to do it from over here, but means I can do that anywhere in the building, anywhere the network goes. And then if I want to configure it for outside access, I can do that as well, so I can access it from anywhere in the world, if I choose to turn that on. I just want to get this plastic off of here. So once again, if we do a nice little close-up here, here's the unit from the front. I don't know why these have a power button. It should always be on. One thing I really like about the Jet KVM, you just give it power to USB and it's on. And the GLI net is also the same. It's got a button on it, but that's a reset button. It's not a power button. So I'm a little thrown why we have a reset button and a power button. The reset button I can understand in a rare occasion if it locks up on you or something, which I've never experienced. And then it tells us it's 5-volt power. On this side, we've got, what do we have here? We've got 2 USB ports and an HDMI on this side. So likely one USB port provides power, and one USB port provides keyboard and mouse, and then that's your HDMI out. So HDMI to HDMI, just like you're plugging into a computer monitor or a television. On this side, we have our internet, Ethernet, and then above that, we have another USB, and that is likely for controlling that little ATX board. If you want to use it, it's got to communicate with this somehow. And that was an oversight I made on the Jet KVM when I was thinking that this other USB port here was for like a flash drive or something. It's not. It's to control the optional ATX board. So I figured that out after I did the live video. I try and figure out how much of this is intuitive. So far, we're pretty intuitive here, except for that power button. So, or intuitive to me, I should say. Let me go back to that widescreen shot and let's see. We don't get an HDMI cable. That's interesting. These both came with HDMI cables. This one did not. It's an interesting thing to prepare for. If you're going to get the Nano KVM, it's about $10 more than these guys and comes up short an HDMI cable. So you're kind of getting a little less there. But without reading any documentation, I just want to see how intuitive this is. On the Jet KVM, you only need one USB cable for both power and to control keyboard and mouse, which makes sense to me, with a secondary USB available to keep this powered on at all times regardless. So for example, if we were to shut the computer off and the USB port no longer had any power, the unit would die. So then how would we turn the unit on? We would need to have another USB cable plugged in just to like a cell phone charger or something that could provide this power 100% of the time. And then we could control this and tell this to send a signal to hit the power button on the computer or emulate the power button being pressed to turn the computer on and off. But since I have no intention to do that, I don't need an additional cable. That's why this one only has 2. One of the downsides of the Jet KVM is it's got that white cable to provide power. When I'm already getting power from the black cable next to it, I don't know why that's not optional. So I have to have 4 cables on this. One for power, one for keyboard and mouse, one for HDMI, and one for the network. It's not a wireless network connection. That frustrates me. And then, of course, a fifth cable if I want to add the ATX board and control powering the unit on or off, or for that matter, I could create a little mechanical robot finger that physically presses a button. And they're supposed to be coming out with that for the Comet here. It's not out yet, but you'll be able to order a mechanical finger or trigger that you can turn, activate it through the other USB port. So you can imagine all the different cases where that could be used. Again, nothing I need, nothing I really have any interest in, but it's kind of interesting. Now, I'm guessing the reason we've got two USB cables with this unit is likely because one provides power, just like the GLI net, and one provides keyboard and mouse. But since the USB cable already has the power in it, I don't understand why they're simply not doing what Jet KVM did. And you're seeing more and more, I imagine, why I'm favoring the Jet KVM. Not only is it solid metal, well built, and has a beautiful screen, the connections make more sense to me. However, given that they're all the same price, this one's actually $10 more right now. You can't even order the Jet KVM in the United States right now. Until they get all the tariff situation and shipping situation figured out, Jet KVM is just pausing any shipping to the United States at this time. But it'll come back. Patience. GLI net, they're shipping, they're no problem. It's still pre-order though. So the only one you can get today, right now in the US, is this Nano KVM. That's why I'm so hopeful that it'll be good enough. It's only one way to find out. So with that USB cable plugged in, I can plug into any USB port anywhere on this unit. It looks like maybe we'll go to the front. We'll just plug it in here. And I just want to see if I get power to this bad boy. Yeah, I got a blue light. And if I hit the power button, what does it do? Oh. This has a little speaker built into it, which is cool. Oh, look at that. All the text came up here to tell us about the unit. That's pretty darn cool. And of course, I still have to plug the network in and HDMI in, and I'm guessing this top USB is probably going to give us keyboard and mouse control. I don't think it all happens through this cable. Sure would be nice if it did. So I'm going to leave that cable out for right now. I'm going to come around to this side, plug the network cable in. Network cable right here. Okay. I have no idea which way is up on that. The text is so tiny. Let me grab my glasses. Ooh. Let's see. It's a very tiny little font, but it tells me what IP address this has. So I can open up the browser, go to this IP address, which is non-routable. That IP address can only be accessed on this side of my router. Anything on the other side, i.e. the internet, cannot access this with that IP address. It's not a routable address. You want to try it? I'll just tell you what it is. You can see for yourself. You ain't getting in because that's not an address that leaves your router. It stays within your router. It's a 192.168 address. So with that, I guess I'm going to steal the HDMI cable from one of these. This is the other thing I don't like about the GLI net. Look at how thick this HDMI cable is. You know, they have these little thin ones that are so much more flexible and lighter weight. Why did they stick us with an old school HDMI cable from 1982? I don't know, but that's easily replaced. All right, so plugging in HDMI, and then I'm going to plug in HDMI back here. Okay, so that's it. No software. We're ready to go. If I punch that IP address into the streamer's browser, I should see the Minis Forum computer, or I should see at least a setup page since this is our first power on. There may also be software updates to this that we can check, just like anything else we buy that has software on it. Its software is on the unit itself. And you always want those latest software updates for the latest security features and usability as it continues to be developed. None of these are polished products. They're brand new first generation, and they're at an extremely low price point that was previously cost prohibitive to any home user or even home lab enthusiast to really afford, unless you have more money than the rest of us. So this hopefully is good to go. Let's find out. So here's what I do. I'm going to go to my window capture over here. And I want you to see what I'm doing the whole time I'm doing it. Nothing up my sleeve. I'm going to open a new tab, and I'm going to type in that IP address, 192.168.68 dot, oh boy, so tiny. I'm going to need my super glasses. 72 it looks like. That's it. Hey, it wants a login. Okay. This is happening only on my local network. So now I'm going to go to the documentation and see what the default login is here. Trying to avoid the documentation. Oh boy. It looks like most of it is in another language. I see Russian and I see Chinese. How to get the R&D resource. Scan the QR code on the bottom of the unit with your phone. Or go to forum.uyee2.com. YOUYEETOO. I guess that's the manufacturer, or is that the seller? Login and password. How do I do that? I don't see where you set it up. So I don't know what the default, maybe the default's written on the screen. Let me get my more powerful glasses out so I can, I will say the Jet KVM screen's a little bigger and a little easier for those of us with imperfect eyeballs. All right, so now I got my more higher magnification and HDMI is hooked up. Resolution is 1920 by 1080. H.264 is our video compression. Is it a touch screen? It is not a touch screen. So I guess that's all the info I get. And there is no QR code on this device. I guess they want you to scan the QR code that's on the box. Do you know the answer to this, yes, Mara? Admin. It's admin and admin. All right, let's see. Well, guess what?
There's a wiki. I'll add the
admin and admin and log in. My RoboForm wants to save it. Not now, RoboForm. Why is this coming up this way? Change your password. Oh, now it wants me to change my password. Okay. Hold on. These super magnification glasses are too strong. Let me put on my regular glasses. Okay, it wants me to put a password in. So username will be, what do I call this? Let's call it Nano KVM. And my password will be Nano. Now, if I was going to open this up to the internet, I would obviously not choose such a stupid password. I'd just try to be funny. Is that going to let me do that? Ah, it did. That's hilarious. Okay, user, Nano KVM, password, Nanu. What do you mean that's... What do you mean? I just literally set this up. Did I type something wrong? Did I go back to admin? Oh, I see. I hit the caps button. Okay, Nano KVM. That's where I'm hitting the caps, is when I'm reaching for tab on this new keyboard. So am I in caps now? No. And then tab. Now in theory, this should bring up, oh, I see, it comes up as a drive view. Oh, and you see the second mouse following? So that is, the smaller mouse is the mouse on the little Minis Forum computer, and the big mouse is mine. And somehow when we plugged it in, it shows a USB drive, like we've got an emulated drive. Let's close that. Let's go back to, yeah, this right here is part of the Nano KVM. And you'll see no software was involved. Let's try, if we go back to the main screen up at the top here, we can emulate a virtual keyboard. So if we're looking on a tablet or a cell phone, like remotely, or heck, even here locally, how do you type on a keyboard? If you don't have a keyboard, well, you can bring up a virtual keyboard. And then, you know, that's pretty much the same on all these units. Image downloader, probably under the gear, there'll be some settings. There's our IP. Oh, it even has a little DNS entry. That's cool. So you don't have to know the IP. You could just type this in up here at the top of the address bar, and that'll get you there. Image version 140 is what we got with the app version 225. Is that the latest? I don't know. There's the discussion group. You could find your FAQ. Everything you need to know. Documentation is all right here. Under the device, you could turn on SSH. You can turn off the DNS. I like that, because the GLINet, you can only do it through DNS, whether you like it or not. You can set up a virtual network. Okay, that's cool. There's the tail scale already ready to go if you want to access this outside of the network securely and encrypted for free. You will use tail scale on the device and tail scale on the computer. So that is a prerequisite for that. What I'm looking for is this check for updates. We already have the latest version. We can get preview updates, but I'm not worried about that. And if we close this and look at some of the other options, what's this? This tells me nothing. This is screen. I don't know what screen means. What happens if I click it? Oh, pretty cool, pretty cool. All right. Keyboard, mouse. What is this? Images. Image downloader. Scripts. Oh, that's cool. Terminal mode. Okay, so you wanted to work on this, you could open terminal on it. So you can open the Nano KVM terminal, and there's your hash prompt there, and type away. If you're into coding it, or you want to look at the open source code or manipulate it, that's right there. Let's close that. So I'm glad we only needed the one USB cable. So I can't say that for GLINet. Unfortunately, it appears the GLINet must have 2 USB cables. So that's where it falls short for me. Now, for my purposes, what I need to do with this is to be able to do updates and things to computers while I'm away from this area of the house. I spend most of my time when I'm on camera right here on this side of the house, and when I'm off camera on the second floor at the complete opposite side of the house. So going up and down the stairs, back and forth, just checking on progress of updates, it's discouraging. And it's taking me much longer to get something done because I forget about it. So now I can have all my tabs open, and I can just switch from tab to tab, coming over here to see where the progress is of my update, including and not limited to even the BIOS. So if I restart this, remember this is a virtual monitor. So we're going to see everything where a traditional remote software stops when Windows stops. This unit is not attached to Windows. It doesn't matter if we're running Linux or Mac. It doesn't matter if we hook this up to our cell phone. I can start pressing delete on the keyboard, which I probably waited too late on that actually. But this is replicating a monitor. That's why it replaces your monitor. So it doesn't matter what I plug into this. If it's got an HDMI output, I can see it through the browser because there's no software. I mean, I don't know what else outside of a computer you would do that to. But yeah, if I had my cable TV box and I plugged the HDMI in the back of it, whatever channel it's on, I could be watching from anywhere in the world. I wouldn't be able to change the channel, but I could call somebody and say, hey, change a channel at the house for me. But that would mean that cable box was not hooked up to a TV. So you could get really creative in how you could use this. But that being said, let's go to, let's see. Let's go into our BIOS. I'm going to try this one more time. Restart. Now, the Jet KVM doesn't carry any audio, so it'd be kind of hard to watch TV unless you turn on closed captions. The GLINet does carry audio. Now, this Nano KVM, I don't know. I don't know yet. But when this restarts, I'm going to start pressing delete on the keyboard, just as I would as though it were the keyboard attached to it. But I'm using the streamer keyboard. I only have one keyboard on this bench. And I'm using it to both control the streamer and when I'm in this browser window to control the remote PC. It's that easy. Again, there is no software you have to install on either side. All the software is in the little box. So hopefully this will restart here in a second. There we go. And I'll just start pressing delete right now. Hopefully I'll get it in the right time. Tap, 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 tap. There it is. Now we're in the BIOS. We can go into setup. We can look for a newer BIOS. You'll see here, you know, we're in the Minis forum with the Ryzen AI 9 HX370. You will notice there's a slight delay. The mouse that's leading is my mouse, and the mouse that's following behind me is the mouse I'm controlling on the Minis forum computer. It follows behind in milliseconds. So if you find that annoying, there's usually somewhere in the setup you can turn that off and turn off, which is probably relative mode. Let's see. Oh, relative mode means, okay, never mind, I don't want that. Absolute mode, and then HID only mode, what does that mean? Let's try that. If your mouse and keyboard stop responding, it could be a compatibility issue. To enable HID for better compatibility. Oh, no, 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 not what I want either. I want to turn off the mouse trails. Reset, no, mouse mode, cursor style, hide cursor. So if we hide the cursor, now, no, I still see, okay, yeah, so now I just see the mouse that is the remote mouse that I'm controlling. But the minute I go above the window, you'll see a second cursor appears that's white. That's the local cursor, so I can come up here and change tabs. See what I'm saying? You get it? But to me, that's confusing. I like to see both mouse trails. Some people don't. So that's under cursor style, and we'll just do default cursor. I think, yeah. It's got a little bit of a lag, but it's not terrible. I mean, it's less than a second. Whatever it's doing, it's milliseconds. So by the time you stop the mouse to click the button, it's already there anyway. It's a non-issue. But we can get into the BIOS and we can make changes, and then we can save and exit. And we can reboot the machine. And it's no different than if I'm sitting right here in front of it, but I could do that from anywhere in the world. Right now, I'm just configured, you know, as I mentioned with the 192.168, it's only on one side of the router. I am disappointed at this price that I didn't get an HDMI cable, but I wouldn't want the HDMI cable the GLINet comes with anyway. It's ridiculous. What I would do is I would go to Amazon and I would look up a thin HDMI cable, and I would find one that's like 3 feet or less, maybe even 1.5 feet. Yeah, here's a 2-pack of 3-foot, really thin, flexible HDMIs for $12 with free shipping. And I bet I could get them even shorter than that. I bet I could do like 1.5 foot or 2 foot. Let's see, 1.5. There's a 1 foot. That might be a little too short. How about a 2 foot? Just go right down the middle. Yeah, there's a 1 foot 2-pack. How about a 2 foot 2-pack? 1.5 feet there, 2 feet, and supports 8K video out. $7 for one of them. Just one cable, $7. These really thin HDMI cables, they're the best, man. Once you go to these, you don't want to go back to those fat cables that are inflexible and more difficult to hide. All right, with that, let me get back over to my camera. So that's not bad. So just 3 cables. So the only one that takes 4 cables is this GLI net. So I have a problem with that personally. I still don't understand the power button here. If I tap power, what does it do? Power button doesn't seem to do anything. Let me hold power in. I don't know what the power button's here for. I guess as a fidget tool. Well, by the way, I'm happy about that. There shouldn't be a power button on any of these. If it's plugged in, it needs to be on. That's the whole point, is you're somewhere else. And I don't want to have to come all the way down the stairs, walk all the way down here just to hit a stupid power button. Nor differently than I want to get in the car and drive all the way to a client's just to push a button for them when I can tell them over the phone, just push the button. Okay. There was something that came out of the box here on my desk. What is this? I don't know. But if we take a closer look at this, let me jump back over to camera 2. You'll see we have a red light that shines through this bottom where the USB port is, right down there. I don't know how well the camera's going to pick that up. And there's 4 screws, and you can open this up and take that little circuit board out, which has the heatsink right here. Just as it showed you, you can just buy the circuit board, but you will have to provide your own memory card, download the operating system from GitHub. You could 3D print this enclosure. All of that files are available. It's all open source community project. Or if you're like me, just let somebody else do all that, and then they put it in a box with a package. And I would not want to remotely turn things on and off, especially because certainly not that easy when you're dealing with a mini PC or a laptop. That is strictly for controlling desktop computers that have that header on them for the power switch that is that size, that what they're coming with. They're intended to control servers. But now mini PCs are being used as servers, so we're kind of redefining even what a server is at this point. Overall, I am very happy with this. And again, there is no security risk here certainly as long as I'm using Tailscale, number 1, because that's all secure. Number 2, if I don't use Tailscale, and the only way I'm accessing this is on my side of the router, you'd have to break into the house, basically, or you'd have to infect me or my router somewhere in one of my systems in order to get to this. And by the way, if you get to this, you know what you're getting? You're getting access to a brand new blank computer that's in a setup phase. You're still not getting anything. So the idea that there's any security risk there, to me, it just seems silly. Anytime you connect to the internet with anything, it's a security risk, and I cannot underscore that enough. There's always security risk. That's why we update BIOSes. That's why we get Windows updates constantly. It's never just like locking a door. And even if you lock a door, you still have plenty of windows that are pretty easy to break. So, all right, let me look over at the chat. If you guys have any questions, that's pretty much the gist of it. I can emulate with this a Windows 11 installer. So I could even install Windows 11 from upstairs on this machine. It will be a bit slower to do it that way. However, in that case, my personal preference would be to simply come downstairs and plug the flash drive into it and then go back upstairs and do everything else from up there, so I don't have to sit and wait for things. And then when it's done and I come back downstairs, I unplug the flash drive. But I don't have to. Like I said, if this were somewhere else in a different building, even though it would be a little slower, I could emulate the USB boot drive on this device and transmit it over the network. But of course, the Windows 11 is like 8 gigs, so it's going to take a while to transmit that. That being said, you can still do it, which is probably still faster than me getting in the car and driving to the client location. So if my client has one of these, then I can maintain it. However, I would not turn this over to a customer. This is strictly a tech device for tech purposes, internal use only. So if I were to have, let's say a customer has a computer in the server room, then I have to drive to the client's location, get into the client's location, and then the server room should be locked. That requires keys to get into, just so I have access to do whatever maintenance needs to be done in the server room. I would install this in the server room for me, and now I don't have to do any of that. I can now access what I need, what this is plugged into in the locked server room without leaving the house. Food for thought. And again, with Tailscale, if you don't know what Tailscale is, you can learn more about it by just typing in Tailscale here on the YouTube search. And there's plenty of videos that describe it at many different levels, from basic, intermediate, and advanced. So if you click on a video and it seems like it's talking over your head, find another video, find one that's more of an introduction. And if you're not doing anything from different locations, you don't need to worry about Tailscale. If you're looking for like the security of a VPN without the price, look at Tailscale. It's all free, it's all GitHub. Not that everything on GitHub is good, but there's a lot of good stuff there. It does come with some conditions, like if it doesn't work, there's nobody to complain to. You got to figure it all out on your own. If you pay for a professional product, then part of what you're paying for is to be able to contact support. So depending on what your needs are and what you're willing to tolerate and how much your budget is, make the decision that's right for you. Okay, let me jump over now to the chat and see what you guys have to say. There's Mitch Morrison joining us in the chat. He says, what do you call a hobbit playing a fiddle? Lord of the Strings. Oh my gosh. Wow. Thank you, Mitch. Appreciate the dad joke. One of the other things I don't like about the GLINet here is it requires a password to log into the remote machine. I don't want that. When I log into the remote machine locally, I just want to type in the IP and get to the desktop, which I can do with the Jet KVM, and apparently I can do it with the Nano KVM. You want to come see it?
So I am a bit tickled with how that came out.
Come look. Look at how tiny the screen is here. Step around over to the side anyway, so that if we're not looking at the back of your head. Well, come step around a little bit. Just watch this cable here.
Yeah, I can read it.
There's a lot of information, but it's super tiny.
It's teeny tiny.
Yeah.
I can read it.
I'm so delighted that just the one USB cable provides power and keyboard and mouse. I also like that, apart from the initial setup and connecting, it's not constantly reminding me to keep having to log in when I'm connected to the remote machine on my local network the way the GLINet did. But that's all fixable in the software. So I have hopes that this is just going to get better. This is a all of this really is first generation product. And the price is crazy. These used to cost at the lowest $300-400 for like a Pi KVM. They weren't this small and they weren't this easy to use. And well, they might have been as easy to use, but they were were larger, and because they're larger, they have a bigger power draw, so they would not run off USB power. You'd have to have separate power, typically like a barrel style power connector. Now look at how advanced this stuff has become. I can't get over just how tiny this is.
I really like the default host name when it popped up.
Oh yeah, the default host name is pretty cool too.
Yeah, that was neat.
So what that means for people, like, what's a default?
It's the last 4 digits of the MAC address.
So check this out. So what she's saying is, if we want to access this without typing the IP address in. And the IP address is right here. It tells you what it is, and it shouldn't change because it's tied to the MAC address. So when this came out without any MAC address, it kept randomizing it. So I kept getting a different IP. It kept changing on me.
It was annoying.
It was annoying because I'd reboot the computer and it wouldn't come back up. And then I'd have to ping this to figure out where the hell it went. That's been since fixed with an update, by the way, and it only affected the most recent batch they sent out. The earlier batches were fine, so something about that chip. On this one, they're giving you both options. And on this one, you have to type the name of the unit. There is no IP address. Well, you could look it up, but they intend for you to use DNS. Think of DNS as when you're looking your phone book on your cell phone, and you're going to call me. And what do? Do you type my phone number in? No. You say, call Carey, or you push Carey on your phone book. I don't know your phone number. If I want to call you, I just hit the Mara button. I used to know people's phone numbers. Well, that ability for the phone to take that name and associate it to a number is what DNS is. So if I go to Google, I'm not really going to Google. I'm going to whatever the four, what are those called, octets? 77.102.165. Humans.
Daddy.
Huh?
Daddy is Google's DNS.
And 4.4.8.8 and 8.8.8.8.
Right.
Dot 8. 4 of them. Anyway, you could Google that for more info.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what we're saying is we can use a name instead of a number. And
but
the name,
default host name, what I liked, it had the last 4 digits of the MAC address in the host name, which was nice.
Okay, so let's demonstrate what that means. So instead of typing in this 192.168, and looking at it, instead the host name stays the same regardless. Just as I can change my phone number, and then you update my phone number in your phone, but you still keep all the other contact, it's still Carey. So you're still pressing Carey regardless of the phone number. It's automatically calling whatever phone number you've assigned. It doesn't matter how often you change it, which would be as often as I change it, right? So that you can still reach me. That's what DNS is. So to use DNS, to demonstrate it, I'll just hand this to you and you can read it because it's way too little for me. But I'm going to open up my window capture again. We're going to go back to our desktop here. Window capture. And I'm going to close the session by hitting this X. And that's what signs. Oh no, that got rid of the toolbar. I see, that brings the toolbar back. That closes. So I guess to close the session, what do? Hit that? No, I just close the tab. I guess that's what logs us out. Or is there a log out here? Oh, there's a power button. Oh, that's to turn the machine on and off. It's shaded out because we're not plugging that additional thing in. Wake on LAN, that's another option they all have. Terminal mode, we have already demonstrated.
Well,
so I guess
pull the host name first.
Well, isn't it on the screen?
No.
Yeah.
It's not.
Pretty sure it is.
It's not.
Okay, MDNS says KVM. Well, I'll just copy it.
No.
That's got to be on the screen.
It's not.
I am surprised. What it's telling us is we can go up to our address bar.
Yeah. KVM dash.
Oh, I've already copied it. I just need to paste it. Or let's see. I thought I copied it. Highlight that. Right click. Copy. Come up here and hit paste. So instead of a number, now we've got this address like google.com. That always stays the same, even though the IP address can change depending on if I move it around different networks, if I bring it over to your house, if I bring it over to somebody else's house, I could still access it this way. So again, I would type in my username. Nanu.
So what I wonder is, with this display, I wonder if you can customize this display to show the host name. Because it says IP res type streaming quality.
I'd swear the host name was on there.
Oh.
Let's go under settings. Can we change the host name? Your account? No. About. MDNS is right there, image version.
Change engine?
No, it's not letting, this is just info. Then there's appearance. So if you want to turn any of these off the menu bar, you can switch them off. Like I'll never use power, so I can get rid of that. See how the power option went way up there. If I don't want terminal, I can turn that off. If I don't want scripts, I can turn that off. So in other words, I can really simplify my choices so I can use this more expediently for my use case needs. Under device, SSH and okay, MDNS info. Turning it off is not needed. That's okay, but where do I configure that? Not here. Virtual disk and virtual network, you can turn those on and off as well. This is all your Tailscale setup if you want to use Tailscale. I love Tailscale. I wish I learned about it years ago, but I know now, and it's one way that I'm able to do updates for my clients off their Synology NASs without having to drive to their businesses anymore to do it. We can get beta, you know, if we want to turn on preview updates. And I don't see the ability to control. Of course, you could turn on SSH if you want to do that as well. Let's see. How do we change the MDNS? Let's Google it. How to change MDNS on Nano KVM.
I bet you can change the host name console.
The device name for the Nano KVM can be modified in the settings and will take effect after a restart. Go to Settings, Devices, MDNS. Go to Settings, Device. Okay, all I see is I don't see it. I just see an on and off.
No, I would think you have to view it in the big
Oh, you'd have to log in through SSH.
Uh-huh.
Oh, so now if I reboot the KVM, then it should disconnect us. Does the screen say it's rebooting? Or yeah, the screen went blank, didn't it?
Screen went blank.
Oh, and the reboot is, it got the toilet flushing symbol. So we just wait here, blind, because presumably we wouldn't be in the same room with the unit to look at the screen.
Right.
We have to just trust that this is going to work here. But the MDNS name, this address up here, will be the same even if the IP address were to change. And we're back to our login. So if I go back to Nano KVM, Nano.
Hope that's not
Why? You think anybody can grab a hold
No,
of it?
I just think it's weird.
After the show, I won't even remember it. I'm going to have to reset the device.
That's my concern.
Okay, so we're on the mini swarm again here, and back over to settings, device. Oh, I guess you can have the screen shut off. That makes sense if there's nobody around to look at it. After 30 minutes or whatever, it's just like keeps the screen from. It probably reduces power consumption and heat. I don't know. By default, it's set to never turn off. So we're not in SSH though. How do we access? We'd have to type HTTPS.
No, SSH. You have to use PuTTY.
Oh, that's the term. Well, what can I just use the terminal in? See down here? Where is it? It's over here. If I close this and go up here, terminal. No, that's not it. Images, Wake on LAN, settings. Oh, we can go full screen. If I do that, now I really am a monitor. This gets really confusing because if we go to right click on this and go to system, we are on the mini swarm computer. But if I hit escape on the keyboard, we're back in the browser. It's just an illusion by making it go full screen, which is really, yeah, it's trippy. So we have two start buttons. We have one here and then probably the one that's not being captured
So
right now.
I suggest doing
down here.
that not on camera because you might have the same issue with the editor.
Well, I don't want to do it that way. What I'm thinking is there should be an easier way. Check. Oh, yeah, it says verify the file exists, and then you would go into the text editor. You're right.
I know.
For example, if you want the host name to be Mike, the file would contain that text.
Correct.
That's not rocket science, but I still would like to see that built into the settings so that you don't have to code it, even though that's barely the definition of coding.
You're welcome.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, according to Sipeed Wiki, I guess there's a wiki page all about this. That's the internal PCIe card that can go into a desktop, so you don't have to have an external box wired up. And it's basically documentation here. Pretty cool. Yeah, okay, the web terminal, that's what you're referring to, SSH. I got it. That's the secure shell. I always think of that as a HTTPS. But in this world, I guess it means something different. And then there's that little board, and they're showing it demonstrated here. Interesting. See, that's okay. So out of the box, it's ready for you to plug and play and use it. But if you want to customize things like the DNS name, you're going to have to be of that technical mindset to know how to do that, or willing to learn, because the information is out there. And if you're lucky, you'll find a helpful person in that community. They do exist. Or there's enough information, it's already been discussed, other people have already reinvented the wheel. Go and find those archive discussions and follow along. You can absolutely do it if you want to. You don't need a degree from college to figure this stuff out. It's pretty basic stuff. Now, let me get back over to the chat one more time and see what else you guys have to say. Bajan Guy says, what does the reboot do? Reboot the device or the computer? It's just rebooting the device. If I want to reboot the computer, I simply go to the start. Look, we have 3 different things here. We've got the computer I'm using to stream to you on. That is also the computer I am using as the demonstration of the one that I am remoting in from to the box. And from the box, it goes to the other computer that I want to see on my screen. If I want to reboot the other computer, I just click on its start button and tell it to reboot. If the computer locks up, maybe that's your question. If the computer were to lock up and we needed to reset it, no, we don't have any way to reset it. We just have a keyboard and a mouse. Now, you might be able to send Control-Alt-Delete, something like that, but that's where that physical power switch would come in. So if we had the physical power switch hooked up to the remote KVM, we could power it off and back on again. But I don't use that because I don't have that problem. And for me, worst case scenario is I'd have to come downstairs and shut the machine off. I don't think I've ever had to do that so far when testing any of these units. Computers locking up just doesn't really happen much anymore. But if that were the case, you definitely want the ATX board and wire it up, and then you could remotely power on and power off the remote computer. So when you see reboot in the device menu, that's everything to do with the little black box. In case that locks up or has an issue where you need to restart it, you've made a change to the config, and in order for that config to take place, to take effect, you need to restart the little black box. So we don't need to restart the computer we're remoting from, and we wouldn't need to restart the computer we're remoting to if all we needed to do was reboot the KVM, the little black box. Yeah, it's 3 different computers involved here. That little black box is a tiny little Raspberry Pi computer running Linux. The streamer is a different computer that we're using to broadcast on, and the mini swarm is the computer we're remoting to. So we've got 3 different machines. We have to know which one we're controlling. The only way you control the little black box is through the menuing system. where we were just looking. So that was that little bar that appeared at the top of the screen. Foreman said you must be confusing SSL and SSH. Yeah, I suppose that's exactly what I'm doing. It's not my speciality, but I appreciate that. That's exactly what I was doing. Judas says, will this use less data if I access this from an outside network than software like Splashtop? I have no idea. You know, there's so much involved in the data that's being sent regarding the video compression and resolution that you're sending across. If you want to reduce your resolution, you would reduce the data. The screen data and the codec that's being used to compress the video and send it is going to be different in each of these. They're going to have their own custom video compression codecs. And most of that hard work is being done by the processor in the units themselves. As to data consumption, I really don't know. It's here in America, this data consumption is a drop in the bucket. Like compared to Netflix or YouTube, this is trickling data. YouTube, on the other hand, or Netflix or any of those other streaming services, they're going to be pouring data. This is just trickling data by comparison. Now, what that means, I can't tell you. I have no real way to measure that. I'd have to figure out how I would measure that. Now, I just don't know. But I can tell you it's not much, not compared to other things. So when you compare it to like remote access software, how does it compare? I don't know, but I know I don't have the resources of my computer, of either computer being utilized. You understand that, right? There are no resources being used here, and there's no resources being used here. All of the heavy lifting is done in the box. All the software and all the config and all the compression, all the data transmission is all handling. This is what this little box does. So from my perspective, it's not so much about how much bandwidth are we sending. It's only a 100 meg data port. It's not a gigabit port. It's not sending that much. My concern is about resources being used on the machines. So I don't have any software running on this machine or on this machine to do this. Zero, and I mean zero resources are in use. This is what this box does. It's the resources we're using. But yeah, to answer your question, how much data does it send versus remote software? Don't know, because it's not the same thing. They're two very different entities with two very different purposes and shouldn't be compared. If you need remote software, then you don't need one of these. And if you need one of these, you don't need remote software. It's one or the other. So to me, it has nothing to do with data consumption. It has to do with problem solving. The other thing is you're not paying any monthly fee or going to a third-party server. You can control all that through Tailscale, and you can control all that on your own network. So if the Splashtop server went down, you're out of luck. If you're paying a subscription to something like TeamViewer, that never ends. It's a forever subscription. You have to continue to pay. The minute you stop paying, your remote access goes away. You buy one of these, there's no more money that needs to be spent ever, other than if you want some new cables. That's it. That's all there is. It just runs forever, unless it fails. There's not much in there to fail, though. So they're two very different tools. And I would not be looking to see if I could replace my chisel with a straight blade screwdriver. That's not what they're intended to be used for, and should not be comparing one against the other. They're unrelated. They're both remote access, but they're both completely different in how they're working. One needs your computer for resources, one doesn't. One needs your monitor, one doesn't. One is limited to the availability and performance of the servers that you're connecting to, the other one doesn't. They're completely different. Completely different. One does not replace the other. I can't emphasize that enough. Can I change the IP address it uses? Yes. Yeah, and oftentimes you can do that in your router. You can tell your router that whenever the serial number or MAC address of this network card connects to your router, reserve this IP and assign it. That's why I was getting frustrated with this, where the MAC address or the serial number kept changing. So to the router, this was a new device every single time I turned it on. So I could not assign it, but that's because it had a factory defect. They used the wrong network chip. That's not normal. That's really, really bizarre. So barring that really bizarre issue, which has since been corrected through an update, a software update, this one doesn't suffer from that. This one doesn't suffer from that. So they're going to maintain their IP address from the lease that your router gives to it. So you can log into your router and say, when this MAC address shows up and requests an IP, give it this one IP. You reserve it that way. On the other hand, the lease time on your router might just keep it reserved anyway. But you wouldn't change the IP address necessarily here. And if you wanted to, you would have to go back into terminal and code that with SSH, which is what I had to do with this until the fix came out. And CoreyMan says static DHP reservation. Exactly. That's on the router side. For me, that would be the way I would do it. For somebody more technical, they might go into terminal and code it in permanently, which again, you could do that. I wouldn't, because what happens if your router's not on the same page and you didn't reserve it in your router, and now your router is giving the same IP address to some new thing that just got on your network. Now you've got the same IP address from two devices at the same time, and your router is going to say, I can't talk to either one of them, or the communication is going to be really weird and bizarre. So for that reason, I would not recommend coding the IP in the device. Handle that in the, well, as CoreyMan said, in the DHCP reservation of the router. And that's really easy stuff. You can, again, if you don't know what that means or how to do it, you Google who makes your router and how to reserve it an IP address. And there's plenty of YouTube videos and articles that can walk you through pretty much every make and model of router. But again, I feel it's completely unnecessary because the default settings on the router are going to reserve that IP address to that device for probably several days. So unless it's been off for a week or more and then you turn it on, it may get a new IP address depending on how many other new things you've added to your router in that time. Otherwise, the router will probably just keep reassigning the same thing if nothing much is changing. Or, as I mentioned, you can reserve it in the router, but that feels like you really shouldn't need to. But it depends on your environment. It also depends if you're one of those people that just can't leave things alone. Like if it's important to you to have to make settings, adjust settings and customize things that don't need to be because you want to, there's no law that says you can't. I just don't want to work that hard. Okay, I have no interest in doing work I don't need to do. But some people, they just want to do the work and they want the control, and they know if I do it, it's set right, and they don't trust that it's going to end. And they're avoiding or fixing problems they don't have and never likely would have had in order to avoid having that problem, which takes us around in a big circle of just doing work for no reason at all. But to answer your question, yeah, you can change the IP address. Mental says this is for installing as remotely or changing BIOS. So I keep talking about the difference between a hobbyist and somebody who works in the industry. And sometimes people think I'm insulting hobbyists, and it's not what I'm doing. What my intention is to differentiate the needs of the IT professional versus the needs of the hobbyist. When a hobbyist can just do whatever the heck they want under no policies or procedures that nobody else has to clean up their mess, nobody else is negatively affected by the decisions they make and took down an entire floor of the company because they didn't know what they were doing. Remote IT needs the ability to log into servers that are handling potentially thousands of employees and even customers' data requests happening online to operate the business. There's a lot riding on it. Now, if you have to wait for the IT guy to show up because it's after hours to address the problem, then the whole system's down, or that part of the system is down, and those people who need that part of the system cannot work. Those customers who need help cannot be helped until the IT guy gets in his car, drives over there, shows up, identifies the issue, corrects it. This could take hours. And so, while these are not intended for professional corporations, as I mentioned, those remote KVMs are very expensive. They're thousands of dollars, and they don't just connect to one machine. They'll connect to 12 machines in one rack. If you ever look at a data center, if we pull up a YouTube video here, I need you guys who've never worked in corporate IT to understand what I'm describing in order for you to see the full picture here and why hobbyists and enthusiasts overall wouldn't have any experience with this. If we go to YouTube and we just type in data center tour. Okay, so let me go to my window capture, because you might have seen videos like this with really no context of what any of this means. And within this video, they're going to walk into this building and you're going to see that's a server, that's a server. Everywhere there's a data cable, there's another server. How many servers are in this picture? Does anybody want to guess? How many are here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. There's probably, I'm not sure the size of this rack. It looks like 2 separate racks that are stacked, although it could just be one tall rack. And then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You've got maybe 20 racks from at least where this photo was taken. On the right, another 20 on the left, each one with about, let's just call it 30 servers. So you're looking at 600 computers here. Do you see any monitors or keyboards? And these all have a purpose that people count on. And it may be for several different companies. It could be one company. We don't know. So when they give us a tour, they're also probably not going to be too open about what these servers do. So how do you think these servers get configured or maintained? I mean, if there's a physical failure, power supply dies or hard drive fails, a tech has to come out and be able to identify which rack and which server and immediately go to that rack, go to that server number, and they know which one to go to diagnose on site. But a lot of server issues can be adjusted remotely. And so for that, they'll have a KVM, and that KVM will control, potentially could control all of the 20, let's say 30 servers in here. And then there'll be a KVM to control 30 here and a KVM to control 30 here. And each of those KVMs is probably around, I don't know, $10,000, $12,000. You see the scale, right? That a home user, do you know any home users or enthusiasts or home lab that have this in their basement? I mean, some extremist may have a portion of one. This, you would be taking out all the power from your neighbors and shutting the street lights out if you powered this on in your house. You would blow every breaker in your house. And this is massive. This is so insane. Our friends over at Serve the Home did a tour. And the battery backup alone is insane. If you look here, the floor panels come up because all the cabling's running under the floors. The servers are sold to different companies. You'll see names of companies on the wall there. And this way, there's no espionage. You need to have a key to unlock the cage that your server is located in. Plus, you need to have identification to even get in the building with a fingerprint. Like, there's a ton of security in here. It's no joke. People just can't walk in here, and you can't just go to any server. And you're probably going to be escorted by security, and they're going to be watching what you're doing the whole time you're in there. Or at least, you know, to the point that unless you're dealing with something private that you don't want them watching, they'll give you privacy once you're in there. So this would be like your cooling system. This whole outdoor thing is all nothing but cooling. All these boxes that are behind them, those are all batteries and generators. So if power goes out, yeah, this is no joke. So if power, this is all cooling. That's showing the direction of the fluid. And of course, there's all these generators that can power this whole system of servers should the power go out from the electric provider. They can run this, I think, indefinitely as long as they've got diesel fuel. They can just keep running it off generators and batteries. Yeah, that's a big UPS. Okay, so that's where, just to give you some idea, some point of reference, this is where remote KVM comes from. This is where it is today, potentially for home users now, where this becomes an affordable option for those of us who see the benefit of this over remote software. And that's my introduction to remote KVM for you guys. At a $70 price point, you can now have it in your house, and you can use it yourself if you have computers that are pretty much just running like servers that you want to be able to sign into. You don't need to have a keyboard, mouse, and monitor taking up space on a computer. You very rarely, say you turn it on and it just kind of auto runs. You can just have the box running, plug one of these into it, and you can do all your updates and maintenance from anywhere else in the house. On the other hand, you could also use remote software if you're using Windows or you know, standard operating systems that you can do that with. You just can't adjust the BIOS or anything like that without something like this, because the software needs to run in the operating system. So what do you do if your operating system's not up? How can you turn the machine on and off without physically being there and hitting the button? Right here, right here, right here. $70. I'm not suggesting in any way that this is for the average person. You know if this is for you or not. If you have to think about it, there's no benefit for you. Like if you're thinking, what can I use this for? Probably nothing. But if you're thinking, oh, that solves a problem I'm having, then it's for you. And I don't imagine there's more than about 10% of you here that would see a benefit to this. But for me, it's life-changing. I can configure 4 or 5 computers a night now, whereas before I was only doing 2, because the amount of time between when I would come down the stairs and check on it, it could have been waiting for me to reboot for an hour and a half. I don't know. Instead, now I'm upstairs. I don't even have to come downstairs. I can update the BIOS. I can do the disk cleanup. I can do the Windows updates. I can do all of that and instantly tell when it's ready to reboot just by clicking the tab. Oh, reboot it. And then it can sit there and say, I'm installing 24H2 after the reboot. Then I go back upstairs and then I forget about it. So for that reason, I was only getting 2 done a night. Now I'm getting 4 or 5 done in the evening. And it's expediting it. And I'm not wearing myself out going up and down the stairs. And I don't have to leave this big monitor on, which is a big power hog. Just shut the monitor off because I'm not even using it. Right? I'm not even plugged into the monitor. This is my monitor. Now, I don't imagine any of you have that use case scenario. And this wasn't even designed by the developers for this use case scenario. But I knew exactly how this was going to help me. I didn't think about, oh, there's a remote KVM. I wonder how I could use it. No, I knew exactly how I would use it. And I don't expect anybody else would use it that way. But the way you would use it is probably the way no one else would use it. That's the beauty of it. It's a tool. And if you're using that tool on a truck, or you're using that tool on a pool pump, or you're using that tool on a bicycle, it's the same tool. It's just how we're using it. And they're so affordable now, and they're so easy to use. But if you have no need for the tool, then it's obviously just information, just so you know these options exist. So in the future, if you encounter a situation, you now have this information where you could go, oh, that tool I remember Carey talked about, I could see how that could help me now. Or maybe never. The Nano KVM, this is from, I think his name is Mental. He's quoting Wikipedia that the Nano KVM has a built-in trans flash card, or micro SD card, with approximately 21 gig of storage for the simulated USB drive. See, that's cool, because what that tells me is I can take my utilities. This is a 16 gig flash drive. This has all the utilities like VLC and stuff I like to install. I don't do it that way, but it's nice to know you can. What I do is I have a copy of this on the NAS. So once I get the remote machine on the NAS, I just pull down what I need off the NAS. Super easy, barely an inconvenience. I don't try to overthink it. But everybody's got different needs, and the way you find that solution is just by knowing what your options are, and then you choose the option right for you. It's like when you go to a restaurant. There's a menu. You order what you want, I'll order what I want. But if there's no menu, how do you know what your choices are? You just get what everybody else is getting? Suppose you could. Scott Pysick. Hey, there's Scott. You still working for come on. Todd Tuckey over at TNT Amusements. My internal Google's a little slow today. Bill Stodd said 1 KVM controls 1 computer. That's right. So far, that's what these do. But that's not to say it's not possible for them to expand on that. The Pi KVM can control 2, but you're going to spend $400 for that. Instead, right now, you would just buy, for 70 bucks, just buy one of these for each computer. If you look, again, if I look at YouTube to give you an example of how somebody's using these, there's a Jet KVM, let's say server rack, just to give you an example of how people can mount these. So if I bring up this channel here, go back to my window capture. I'll show you how they're doing it on an extreme level, which is way beyond anything I would do. So this guy is showing these 3D printed rack mount pieces and how the KVM, the Jet KVM specifically, fits inside of it. And he can mount that in his rack to each server he's got. And this can go the full length of the rack, holding 6 or 8 of these, just like that. And I think he's probably got one bigger than that in here, or I'm thinking of another channel. He's showing how it just mounts in there. It's a real clever design, and it's created by the community. You can go on Etsy, even Amazon sells these. But I don't have a rack. I would not have a rack in my house. That's just a level of nerd that I refuse to be. Okay. But look, that's just me. It's okay for you to do it. It's just not okay for me to do it. So yeah, if he had 6 servers in that rack, he could get 6 of these at 70 bucks a piece. You have any idea how inexpensive that is to be able to do that? And then to take it to an extreme, I'm trying to think what I could plug this into. Just to show you, for example, it doesn't have to be a computer. What do I have around here? I've got to have something I can show you. Let's see if I come around here. Yeah, this has HDMI on it. Does it have any charge on its battery? Oh, it appears to have a charge. Okay, so this will be kind of fun. Let's try something here. So here's my little arcade game, and despite it being all dusty, it apparently has a charge on the battery. Okay. If we play, get my glasses out.
Space Ace, defender of justice, truth, and the planet Earth. Ace is being attacked by the evil Commander Borg.
Hold your fire!
Is that creep?
No way, Borg, old buddy.
Oh!
I've been hit
by the Infanto ray.
Struggle with Dexter to regain his manhood. Destroy the Infanto Ray. Defeat the evil Borg.
HDMI cable, right? So we're still, I was unplugging the wrong end. I need this end. And we'll plug it into the HDMI port on the back of this arcade. You see, there's no cables on this at all. It's not networkable. You can't put this on a network. It's a standalone little arcade game. So I'm going to plug the HDMI into it, like so. Okay, and let's go back to my browser.
Justice, truth, and the planet Earth. Ace is being attacked by the evil Commander Borg.
Hold your fire! No way, Borg, old buddy.
I've been hit
by the Infanto ray.
So I'm going to go to Window Capture, and we'll go up here and we'll type in, what was the IP address? 192, yeah, 72, right? I log back in.
The valiant space warrior, the fate of Earth is in your hands.
And now we're on the output of the video game. I mean, I can't control it, but
Space Ace, defender of justice, truth, and the planet
it's in a browser.
Ace
See?
is being attacked by the evil Commander Borg.
Hold your fire!
Has nothing to do with the operating system, and no software is needed.
I've been hit
By the Infanto ray.
All right.
Struggle with Dexter to regain his manhood. Destroy the Infanto Ray. Defeat the evil Borg.
Does that help you understand it any better?
Come on, Kimberly, let's go. I've been hit.
Scott Pysick with a $20 super chat. He says, this is a great topic. I'm still working with Todd Tuckey. I have a rack in my basement. Oh, see? Nerd alert. Caught one. Total nerd. That's what he says. His words. Total nerd. Great to catch a live video. Good to see you again, Scott. Coreyman says Xbox, PS5, Nintendo Switch, DSLR camera. Yes, yes, and yes. Absolutely. If it's got an HDMI port output, not an input, but HDMI outs from your cable box to your camera, yes. This device is just a monitor. If you can plug a monitor into it, think of this as a monitor that you can see from a distance. That's all it is. That's all it is. A monitor you can view in your browser. And the other cable is just the keyboard and mouse that you can control a PC if that's the monitor you're connected to. Or that the monitor is connected to. Bill Stodd said, let's see, I send a remote KVM to a customer and he plugs it in. He calls me and says my computer doesn't turn on anymore. Yeah, so that's not what this is for. For a customer, you would use instant house call. You would use software. You would not be, and I already said that. So I think maybe, Phil, you either weren't here or you weren't paying attention, because I made it very clear this is not designed to go to a customer. This is for IT techs. Bill Stodd mentions there's no audio. I don't think this one covers audio. I didn't see the option. Only the Jet KVM so far I've seen do audio. However, let me go back to our settings, because I don't recall in our settings here an option for audio. And I know the Jet KVM absolutely does not do audio. So I'm guessing the Nano KVM does not do audio either. However, the GLI net will do audio. Normally, you wouldn't be working on audio remotely. That would be just sort of a kludge that you could oh, I didn't have it on the window capture, did I? Well, that would be a bizarre use case scenario. And for that, if you needed audio, then that would justify getting the GLI net. Again, we're at first generation products here, so likely that will be added on in future revisions. It kind of depends on what the community wants to build, because a lot of this is community driven, and it's not a limitation of the device. Like, this has the ability, they just have to code it in. And then the question is, will it have enough processing power? Because we're going to steal processing power to process audio. That would be my guess. And then transmitting it is going to be more data that's sent over. And because this is seen as a tool and it's not an entertainment device, it's not built for entertainment. You might have fun stacking wrenches in a Jenga game. You could do that. It's not intended as a wrench to be an entertainment device. It's designed to be a tool. You don't have to use it that way. When you buy it, you can use it any way you want to. You can use it to stick under the leg of a table to keep it from wobbling. That's really a ridiculous thing, but you could absolutely do ridiculous things. So I would not personally want audio on these. Absolutely not. Because these aren't entertainment devices for me. These are tools, because I will go back to the whole hobbyist enthusiast thing. That's more hobbyist enthusiasts. I'm just looking for something to do and play. I'm trying to earn a living. I don't have the luxury of time and money to sit around and play. I'd love to. I would love to. Okay? But that's not an option that my life has afforded me, both literally and figuratively. I have to work if I don't want to lose the house. So as much as I want to play games, there might be a few minutes in a day for me to do that, but I'd rather just relax and turn my brain off and watch a little TV. I wouldn't overcomplicate my life with nonsense because I was bored. I have enough nonsense and complication in my life. So I use these to uncomplicate my life. I'm just showing you what's possible, not what's necessarily a recommended use case scenario. All right, just to be clear, you buy one, you use it any way you want. Frank Jimmy says, to summarize, how would you rate each KVM from most favorite to least favorite, or rate each one on a scale of 1 star to 5 stars? Well, my personal values, perspectives in use case, this is number 1 for me. And I wish I would have ordered 3 of these, because they had a Kickstarter where you could get 3 of them, or even think 5 of them. But I didn't know the tariff thing was going to happen. I was more worried because it was Kickstarter, they were going to take my money and I wasn't going to get anything. But as I started seeing YouTube content creators showing off theirs, oh, it's a real thing. You know, it's not just vaporware. So I'll buy one and we'll see if it arrives. And if I like it, then I'll buy some more. I also didn't know you can only back a Kickstarter one time. So we can find a what's the word? We can find a workaround for that. I'm trying to think of the word. It's a loop with it. Anyway, I could have Mara sign in and order them under a different account. But once you order a backup project on Kickstarter, that's it, you're done. You can't back it any more than that. But they're going to be selling these on Amazon. So when they're on Amazon, I'll probably get some more. It's just a couple months maybe, no big deal. The GLI net is probably my least favorite. I feel that the requirement of the additional cable, the fact it came with white cables and black cables makes no sense to me. They should all pick a color, just pick a color. There's no screen on it, and there's no way to tell what the IP address is. You have to access this over DNS. This does carry audio. It is the only one that carries audio, but that has no value to me. And I would say the video quality coming out of this is the best. This will handle much better video compression. They're doing something differently than everybody else, but that's not important to me either. Oh, look how crisp the picture is. Oh, good, I really can see my Windows updates in 4K now. I don't need that. So that, even though the video is better and this carries audio, it lacks the screen. And they're all basically the same price. They're within $10 of each other. So for that reason, for my needs, this is my least favorite. However, there may be updates. There will be updates. And it's possible that those updates start manipulating this a little bit. That makes it more preferential for me. I don't like that I have to download an app to access this device remotely from outside of my own network. This, you just go to their website and sign in through there. I love that. Finally, with today's Nano KVM, I don't know why it has a power button, and I don't know why it does not come with an HDMI cable. The others do. It's probably the laggiest of both of them. This is, you know, watching the mouse trail behind seems a bit slower. So what? It's still milliseconds. The interfaces are all pretty easy to do. I don't like that you have to really get into coding to make any changes to this, but the truth is you really need to do that for any of these. I'd like to see the options, you know, in the settings. You can just go in and make these changes. That would be nice, and it's probably going to be through an update. They'll do that. It's not a limitation of the hardware, it's just the developer. And then I would say the ability to use tail scale on this. And by the way, you can use tail scale on this too. You just have to code it in versus right there on the interface. So they all have things I like and dislike. None of these are perfect. For my use case, for my values, I cannot get over how solid this unit is. This could have been a plastic shell. I don't know why they didn't use plastic. This is heavy. It's a solid piece of metal here. And the screen is gorgeous, although I'm not exactly sure after just getting the IP address why I would need to be looking at the screen. The screen is also a touch screen, which doesn't do anything but show you other about information. You can't change anything, so that seems pointless too. But maybe there's a future update that will utilize that for something. Maybe they have future plans. They're all about the same price. The Nano is the most expensive one, but currently about the only one you can get right now. The Jet KVM will be available on Amazon. The GLI net is still a pre-order product, and they're all still being developed, and so they take your feedback with much gratitude. So, you know, you might be wanting something nobody else wants, but it doesn't hurt to make the request for them to consider. And then you can do it yourself with the Nano KVM. You can just make it the way you want it since it's all open source. But again, this is the only one you can order today in the United States. If you're watching from out of the United States, you can get a Jet KVM. The US is the only place you can't get it. And then the GLI net, they're shipping They're taking pre-orders and they're shipping, but you might wait a month. On the Nano KVM, I waited about 10 days. It's not too bad. And ordered it through Amazon. They're all plug and play. They're all easy to use. I like the tail scale. Really like that on this unit. I don't like the app required on this unit for outside access, but inside of the network, I also don't like that it keeps asking me for a password. And the Jet KVM asks me if I want to use a password locally, and I tell it no. It says no problem, and it leaves me alone. That's another thing I like about the Jet KVM. If I want to access from outside the network, I can access it on my phone. I can't do that on the GLI net because the app's not available for the phone. And this, with Tailscale, I can access on anything that has Tailscale compatibility. So that's pretty darn good. And Tailscale is free, it's all encrypted, and it's really secure, better than any VPN I've ever used. It's faster, it's cheaper because it's free, and it's, in my opinion, far more secure than trusting any corporate VPN company to say, oh, your data is encrypted. Sure it is. Out of 5 stars, I'm going to go 4.2. 3. 3.7. 3.8. Nothing's 5. But they're first gen. Nothing's going to come out first gen. And just first time up to bat, you're going to hit a home run? Not likely. Possible, but not likely. These have room to grow and evolve. And you're getting a very early look at products that are not available for sale yet. This is a pre-order. This is a Kickstarter. This is the only thing that's community driven that's been publicly available, but has no corporation really behind. Well, Sipeed, and I suppose that U2, what's it called? That's a really weird website. It lists it on Amazon. It's here, let me open the browser. We'll go there together and take a look. Okay, let's go to hold on. Where is it? Ye2.com. And so this is the company that makes all kinds of remote KVM, and there's a Banana Pi. I guess that's a router. There's the unit that we're playing with today, $25. I suppose there's tariffs and things. So on Amazon, they got to pay commissions too, but for $70, I still think it's a fair deal. Anyway, so they make a bunch of other stuff here as well. Just not sure if you're in the US how you're going to import that in without having to pay an additional double or 150% on top of the price for the tariff. So I just go to Amazon instead. And you'll see when we look at Amazon, we type in Nano KVM. If you look at who the seller is, it's going to be, let's see, if we click on that. Oh, that says Waypon Dev. There's a few others in here. Like this one is the same unit for a few dollars more, and that's from Ye2. But the delivery says I could get this in 5 days. And this one that's a little bit cheaper says I can get it in about 2 weeks. So it's the same device with different sellers. And here's another one. It's a little cheaper at only $66. It's going to take 5 to 6 weeks before I'll get it. But it'll save me some money, like $3 or $8. Here's one for $64, but then there's a $15.29 delivery fee and still takes 6 weeks. So pay attention to these details, folks, because Amazon can list the same product from a number of different sellers. These are internal cards that you can plug into a desktop. And it has a little screen right down here that tells you your IP address and information. You see the little tiny screen right down at the bottom? But that's not versatile for my needs. But you'll also notice it can connect to Wi-Fi, so you don't have to have a hardwired cable there. So anyway, it's pretty exciting times, in my opinion, that I never even considered one of these because they were well out of my price range and way overkill for my needs. But at that $70 price point and the simple plug and play action of it, I'm wondering how I ever lived without it. It's one of those things that ignorance was bliss, and I'm real happy that you know, it all starts with the community, really, and that inspires the companies to take it to a more professional level, and then that gives us as consumers choices. What are your thoughts?
Speaking of Jet KVM, they just responded
To what?
Email.
Oh, they responded to me about my issue?
About your
Oh, just telling me to download the
Correct.
update?
Yeah.
That's already been done.
Yeah. Look how long it took.
Well, but again, at least they responded.
Sure.
If you're going to the community,
Yeah.
you might get nobody's held accountable. So it is what it is. You're on your own.
I really was impressed with now with the Nano KVM.
Feel it.
It's so teeny tiny and little tiny and small and cute.
Everybody made this out to be like it was like this mouse weighs like 54 grams. It's like nothing. This actually has a little bit more than I expected. A little more. I think it's the heatsink.
Maybe, but
You want to feel it?
Nothing.
Oh, you already
Play
picked
with
it up.
over there, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and again, I don't like that the GLI net has to have separate power.
Right.
That really bothers me.
And there's no screen.
It's also the physical largest. Like if you look at the sizes of these. I bet I could put the KVM and the Nano and still have the GLI net over, you know, still sticking out.
Those two are yeah.
So this is my least favorite, but that's just for now. Like I say, there's some updates that could come out that could completely change this around. And there will be updates, I guarantee it. These are all Generation 1 products. All right, and let me just see if there's any final questions for our folks in the chat. Anything else in email I need to check?
No,
That's it? Okay. The Nano KVM also nags for the password. It does. It does. But it seemed to me the GLI net was bothering me more often. I just literally unboxed this today, so I don't have much time with it. So let me have a little more time with it, and we'll see if they're nagging me about the same. The Jet KVM, if I turn it off, it doesn't nag me at all. When it's on a local network, I don't understand why I would need to password protect it, or why there wouldn't be the option, you know, to turn that on or off. When we're connecting, like for example, I could put a password on the remote PC on the desktop. I could put a password on Tailskate. Well, I have to. How many passwords do I need to get into the stupid thing? That's why if it's on a local network, I've already got the passwords. I've already logged in. I just want to access it. If I'm outside of the building, you absolutely have to password protect. You'd be a fool not to. So that's why I don't understand why that's not an option. But I also know that's an easy thing to code. It's not like you got to buy a new device for that. They just need to program that. Mark Gaines with a 10-pound super chat says, though I have no need for one of these, it's still a fascinating subject. Well, you never know. You could have a situation arise in the future And now you have this information that may apply to you in the future, or maybe never. Craig Jimmy says, was the word I was looking for loophole? That's exactly the word I was looking for. So the loophole with Kickstarter, what I'm saying is if I can only back one Kickstarter, a specific Kickstarter one time, what if these were still available on Kickstarter and I wanted 2 more? If they were shipping to the United States, how would I get them? I would have Mara create an account on Kickstarter and just have her pay for them. It's not like different people can't live at the same address. You know what I mean? So they wouldn't restrict that. I'm just surprised. You would think if somebody really liked what they received, their, what do they call it, a Kickstarter, when you get the product, when you get that, you really like it and you want to back the project some more, you'd think they would allow that. Now you're enthusiastic and you want to give them even more money to help back them. And Kickstarter says, no, you can't do that. It's not Jet KVM saying that. It's Kickstarter saying that's just the way Kickstarter works. I did not know that because I've never backed a Kickstarter before. I just don't trust it. I'm afraid too many projects or ideas and never actually come to be outside of prototypes that they don't send. So this is my first real Kickstarter experience. It was a good one. It was a good experience. Vega Man said, I have Chromecast, but some videos don't offer Chrome. This is not intended as a remote video device. It's not an entertainment device. So if you use it in an entertainment way, then you will take on the caveats, the pros and cons of using it in that way. I don't know what to tell you. It might work for you. It might work sometimes for you. It may not work at all for you. It's not what it's built to do. If you want a sling box, go buy a sling box. Oh, Ernst said that $25 price was just for that bare circuit board, that you have to do all the work. You know, you have to get a memory card. You have to download the image from GitHub. You've got to create an, well, you don't have to create an enclosure, but you can print out your own if you have a 3D printer. When it's all said and done, you'll be working on yours. I'll have mine plugged in and working. It's time versus money, I suppose, but you know, you have options. But yes, that would explain the cheaper price for sure. And personally, to get the memory card and the image and the 3D printed case along with all the cables for 70 bucks, that's a pretty good deal. Although for $10 less, the Jet KVM is an even better deal and is much better made. That's metal, that's just 3D printed plastic. Mental says, I have 3 to 4 weeks from Amazon from your link. Are you in the United States? Bill Stott said KVM switches were first made available years ago. Rotary switch setup would allow control numerous computers. Oh, well, that's a different, we're not talking about KVM. We're talking about remote KVM. There's USB KVM, remote KVM, and just KVM. And we've demonstrated KVM here years ago back at Studio A. When you're local and you have like 2 computers side by side, you know, our friend Mitch does that. He's got a computer on the left side of his desk and the computer on the right side. And I think Mitch has a keyboard and a mouse and a monitor for each computer, but he could use a KVM switch and plug his keyboard, mouse, and monitor into the KVM switch. And then the left side of the KVM switch, keyboard, mouse, and monitor, goes into the computer on the left. On the right side of the KVM switch, computer, monitor, sorry, the monitor, the keyboard, and the mouse go to the right computer. That's 9 cables. And then the KVM also needs power, so then you have to plug it into the wall. That's 10 cables. And then when he wants to switch between computers, he just has 1 keyboard, 1 mouse, 1 monitor. and can push a button because the KVM will sit right on the desk and flip the keyboard, video, and mouse to the other computer and back again. And they often can use a hotkey combination, control shift something, so you don't have to physically have this within reach. You can hide it somewhere. It's a lot of cables, and those have been around a long time. This is doing that over IP, which is just damn cool. To me, I think that's really cool that it's so affordable now, and they've made it so tiny. Look, this was a 6-foot tall arcade game that cost $6,000 back in 1985. And today, it is exactly replicated in every detail at 1/6 the original scale, but otherwise identical. And it's the exact same game. And they're able to compress that down for, you know, a couple $100. Even in the back of this, remember this was a Laserdisc game. So in the back, we've got a Laserdisc player. So stupid. It's just for looks. But this is an exact replica of a $6,000 arcade machine that is fully playable. It is exactly identical in every way, in playability, joystick location and color, button location and color, even the coin slots in the front. And then inside, you've got a Laserdisc player, just like the real one. That's just the stupid amount of detail. Even the buttons on the Laserdisc player, it is exactly, why is that wet? It is exactly what the real unit in the 80s would have contained in the back. Obviously, it wouldn't have an HDMI port, but all of this is to scale, at 1/6 scale. Even the brand of DVD player, the color and the way the door opens, is exactly the way it was manufactured and sold to arcades. And unless you've been inside of one, how would you know that? Who had $6,000 to buy one of these for their house? And yet now you can buy them for a couple $100 and play it at home. Granted, it's a smaller screen and you're not having to put a quarter in every time. But the fact that they can get remote KVM down to this for $70 and a $6,000 6-foot tall arcade game down to whatever that is, 15 inches, fully playable, and you can even plug in a USB external controller if those controls are too small, and you can plug into your big screen TV if the screen is too small, and sit on your couch and play it for free. You don't have to keep pumping quarters into it. That's just the sign of the times. That's where we've gone. Even the coin door opens. It's so stupid. I love it. It's just a level of stupid that amazes me about how far we've come with technology in every scale. Even cars and the amount of gas mileage we're getting and horsepower out of little teeny tiny engines that you couldn't get out of a V8 Mustang in 1970. You're now able to do 3 times the amount of power with half the amount of cylinders while also improving the gas mileage. Technology. Amazing. The sloppiness of carburetors to the precision of fuel injector, you know, under direct fuel injection, high pressure, very high pressure fuel lines with precision measurement of timing. You don't have to time the engine anymore. The engine times itself. Holy moly. All of this happened just in my lifetime. Imagine where it'll be in 100 years. Well, I guess we'll all have to, because I don't think we'll all be around in 100 years. That sounds actually worse than anything else. All right, I'll take any final questions here and we'll wrap it up for today. Dustin Fuller says, great stream as always. Well, thanks, Dustin. Thanks for hanging out with us. Ernst is saying, when you back a Kickstarter, it's called a pledge. Yeah, well, when I back a Kickstarter, I consider it a purchase. Call it what you want. You're taking my money and you're sending me a product. At least that's what the intent is. Which is why I've been so leery to do anything with Kickstarter before. But I've had a very good experience with it. I would cautiously see what people are saying. If Kickstarter project as someone who's just constantly having new ideas and never sees anything through, or if it's completely unknown, or if they have a history of completing other Kickstarter projects. I wouldn't just blindly throw money at a Kickstarter, not a significant amount anyway. I'll throw a few bucks into an idea, but can't really afford to do that very often. So I'm very interested in seeing the Jet KVM develop, and I'd like to see more competition in that space, because having 3 units is nothing. I want to see 12 units from all different makers and all different interpretations. We'll get there. This is just a very early look at this stuff. And I'm not the first to do any of these videos. There's plenty of videos that came before mine you can find here on YouTube that go more in depth, or even have different take on the way they need to use it and what they value or don't value. Whether it's the Jet KVM, the GLI Net Comet, or the Nano KVM, there's plenty of that content on YouTube for you to search for and watch, and find other content creators who you might feel do a better job of explaining it or demonstrating it to your preference. Don't offend me none. Oh, Mental is in Sweden. So in Sweden, you probably want to look not at MyLink. When you're purchasing from MyLink, you're purchasing from Amazon.com in the United States. I don't know, in Sweden, would you order from Amazon Germany? Because I don't think there's an Amazon Sweden. But you want to go to whatever Amazon you would normally purchase from, so you don't have to wait for the thing to be shipped across the ocean. That's why there's an Amazon.co.uk, an Amazon.de, Amazon, etc., etc. So yeah, if you're in another country, I would not be using my links, unless it's going to the manufacturer's site directly. But if you're going to use Amazon, use your local Amazon in your country, or your neighboring country, as the case may be in Europe. Dennis Hill said, does it have a shell interface for CLI? Hey, Mara?
Yes.
Do you know if these have a shell interface for CLI?
Yeah, SSH.
No, the SSH is that?
Yes.
Okay. Went over my head. What's CLI?
The command line interface.
Command line interface. Oh, okay. See, I'm not a Linux guy.
You have an appointment.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I need to wrap it up then.
You do.
Does it have a shell interface? Bill Stott said gasoline fuel injection can be 35 to 55 psi. Diesel can be 2,700. No, I don't think that's right, Phil. I think modern, what do they call it? Like Volkswagen has TDI. Let me Google this. What is the fuel pressure of TDI? Well, it'd be called a direct injection. Direct injection. It's hundreds of psi, I'm sure. I'm sure of it. Gasoline direct injection typically operate with a fuel pressure of 2,000 to 2,900 psi. So I think you're thinking of, maybe it was my fault for calling it fuel injection instead of direct injection, GDI, gasoline direct injection. Maybe that's where our miscommunication is. But that's what I meant. I meant the modern fuel injection, which is direct injection. And it's as high as diesel. It's very similar to diesel. And with that direct injection, you get more power, you get cleaner emissions, you get better fuel efficiency. Yeah, gotta love it. Because before that, you had fuel injection, before that, you had throttle body injection, and before that, you had carburetors. And with each one, we got better. And I'll tell you, there ain't nothing like rebuilding a carburetor and cleaning out all the gunk and replacing all the little parts and floats. Did you hear that?
Yeah, what was that?
I don't know, something fell. You were just in the kitchen?
Yeah, well, I'm making.
You making me a pie? Are you knitting me a sweater?
I'm knitting you a sweater. Yeah, pie.
Mental says GDI and TDI are the same thing. Yeah, I thought so. I thought TDI was Volkswagen's own name for it, but is one diesel and one fuel. Regardless, it's really high fuel pressure. But hey, it's not a car channel, and it's not my specialty. So you guys can Google that if you want to learn more about it. Or, you know, there's plenty of great car channels. Vice Grip Garage, great channel. This guy will fly out somewhere. Somebody's got a car that's been neglected for decades sitting in a barn, and he'll bring it back to life, start it up, and drive it back home. Could be thousands of miles across Canada to the United States, or from one end of the US to the other. And then when he gets it back to his shop, then he'll actually go to work fixing it all up. Vice Grip Garage, great if you're into cars. Check him out. His videos are long videos. He drives by himself, has a camera with him during the whole drive, see if the car can make it. He just does the minimal thing he can to make sure that, you know, the brakes work, that the engine starts, the fluids have been changed, and then, you know, the tires are good. Sometimes he spends a lot of time in the barn getting it, you know, depending on how neglected it is. He had a Volkswagen, the gas pedal wouldn't budge. And he just broke that gas pedal free from just some lubricant and a torch, and just worked it free. And he's like, there's less work I have to do. Now the gas pedal moves fluidly. Now I can drive it safely. And then he just drove that thing and filmed it. So if it breaks down or he has any issues, it's all happening on camera. And it's not live, but it's edited. And then later there'll be like a follow-up video where it's in the shop and they're actually fixing it up for resale. New interior, new paint, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's one guy by himself, which I think is fantastic. Vice Grip Garage. Mental says we have Amazon Sweden, but it still ships from the US or China. Oh, yeah, you never know. Sometimes the Amazon warehouses will store it locally. Depends on the seller. But, you know, if you order it today, you'll get it sooner than if you order it tomorrow. Okay, I think that'll wrap it up for me for today. Overall, look, I wouldn't turn away any of these devices at this price point. And it's weird to me that the Jet KVM just happened to arrive first. If it was a perfect world, I would have got the GLI net first, and I'd have said, wow, this is pretty cool. Then I would have got the Nano KVM and said, wow, this is even cooler. And then I would have got the Jet KVM and said, holy cow, it's amazing. But it worked exactly the other way, because I film these as soon as they arrive in the mail, within 24 hours, or sometimes in this case, or even in this one, I think the only one we had overnight before we made the video was this one, because it arrived so late at night. Otherwise, I would have turned on the camera and started immediately. And that's why they arrived in this order, and I reviewed them in this order. But I wish they had all arrived the other way around. But it is what it is, and my attitude is still the same. It's just I started with what I think is the best one for my needs. And so the other two have left, they're just not quite as good by having this previous knowledge. They're all good though. I like them all. They're just like the Jet KVM a little bit better. I also like how it feels and looks. It's also very inexpensive. I don't know how long it'll stay that way, but it's 69 bucks. That's a bargain all day long. And this one of these I think was 79, but it's $70. I mean, it's nothing. You can have this for life. You know what I'm saying? You can replace your computer 15 times in the next 30 years, and this is still going to work. All right, I guess that'll wrap it up. Thank you, of course, to Mara for all the work she does behind the scenes, all the administrative tasks. Thank you to all of you for watching. Thanks to our members. It's because of our members that we were able to buy all of these. Nothing was sent to us for free. Everything you're seeing on this table we paid for. And we wouldn't have been able to do that without you. So without you, we wouldn't have had this content. For everybody who's not members, but has contributed even through their presence, hanging out with us in the chat room, we thank you for being here, because the community is really the heart and the soul of this channel. It's not me and it's not my content, it's all of you. And we appreciate each and all of you hanging out with us and spending your time with us today. Thanks to our friends at SCD Keys, who have that discount on Windows and Microsoft Office. Legitimate license keys with 6 months of support. So you can get license keys all over the web, but who knows who you're buying from. Why risk it? We have a coupon code, it's 30% off. It's like $15 for a Windows 10 Pro key that you can use currently to activate Windows 11 Pro. You don't have to install Windows 10 Pro. Just put the key in, it activates. You could buy an Windows 11 Pro key for a few dollars more that does the exact same thing if you want to. If you want to save a few bucks, SCD Key will be happy to sell you either one. And we don't make a commission on that. So if you use it, I'm just putting it out there for you guys. I don't know what else to say. We're not here selling anything. With that, thank you so much for being a part of this channel and for hanging out with us. I will experiment with this a little bit as I do some more updates later at night with some other machines I've got around here, so I can familiarize myself with it as I have done with the previous two. Any final words?
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks again for watching. We'll see you all again very, very soon. Until next time, bye for now.